Under experience. Transaction.
Hi guys, welcome to the debate between SMU and NTU. Today we are talking about no money, no money. And the format is a cross-examining format. So what's going to happen is that each speaker is going to speak for 5 minutes without taking any questions from the opposite side. And at the last 2 minutes, the speaker will have to answer questions from the opposite bench. So we hope that you have fun today watching the debate. At the end of the debate, the audience will be able to vote to decide which team has won. In addition, we have a panel of 3 judges here: Mark from NUS, Andrea from SMU, and Satya from NTU. Okay, enjoy the debate.
We now call on Alfred, the first speaker, to start the debate. Wait.
No, it's just 5.
4 minutes.
No, actually, let's do one at 4, 2 at 5, and then yeah. Just tell him what to do. Alfred. We're clapping.
Just so it's clear for all the debaters on this round, we'll be clapping once at 4, twice at 5, after which you can ask POIs
Questions.
and questions or whatnot. After all, this is the debut of the cross-examination debate format. And finally, and at 7, we will ban twice again, at which point y'all should stop. Alright? Have a good debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, for far too long, marriage as a transaction is something that is very real, yet frowned upon by society. It happens every day in our lives. It happens when individuals go to marriage agencies to buy bride from Vietnam. It happens when our very own member of the parliament takes nude photos with his maid. It happens when the Sarong party girl and Serta and Zook try to seduce Angmos like Mark, not moving picture, right? The reality is that the poor, uneducated Singaporean men of today's society live in a social environment where it's impossible to meet the demands of Singaporean women, right? For anyone who has been to Geylang, you will know that if you want the special package, you must pay the price. The expensive lifestyles and hyperinflation rates that we have in Singapore make sustaining the lives of these women who are unreasonable close to impossible. The solution that we have then is very simple, right? Our policy is that we believe that the government should accept reality and endorse the purchase of brides. How will we do so? We believe the government should release the funds from the Central Provident Fund, like the CPF. So, just like how the government allows you to use CPF to have home payment schemes, we think that they should also allow you to use the money for honey acquisition scheme. And we think that this principle is consistent with the provision, the governmental provision of goods fundamental to your basic dignity. We think this is an extremely elegant solution, especially when you consider the very beneficial exchange rate we have with the countries around Singapore. For every 1 Singaporean dollar, you get 2.5 ringgit. For every 1 woman you can buy in Singapore, you can get 2.5 women where Satya comes from, you can get 10 Filipinos where Andrea comes from, and hundreds where John the Vietnamese right? We realize that the fact of the matter is that the goal in life of these women, very often, unlike the Singaporean women that we have, is to stay at home and make sandwiches and babies for their husbands. That's the perception of bliss that they have, right? Because we really see this days, they're more than willing to sell their services and lives to feed their families who are in abject poverty living conditions at home where you don't even have enough food to eat. People are dying, ladies and gentlemen. What is NTU doing about it? Right? So this is something that already happens within the status quo when employers at home choose to boink their own maids. But within the status quo, we can't protect these individuals, right? When these maids get pregnant, they are forcibly sent back to their home countries and they lose their jobs. They're subject to domestic abuse within these families. We think that this is a very elegant solution because it allows you to take your maid who's been working for you for so long to become your wife, right? So moving on, why is it why is it the best solution? Because we think that currently the government is really paying so much money to try and get Singaporeans to marry and have children. Anyway, we see the government taking out huge loads of funds for university orientation programs, things that we all go through, right? When they make us do ridiculous activities like doing push-ups on top of each other and passing a strawberry from mouth to mouth. We see the government attempting to engage in social engineering already happening when they try to restrict the HDB flat purchase to married couples. So much so that, the standard way of proposing to your wife right now is, honey, will you be my CPF my HDB co-owner? We think that our solution is going to be much cheaper and effective, right? We think, in fact, that in order to safeguard the interests of these women, our very useless Internal Security Act, which is currently really not doing anything, right? We're going to use them to monitor the conjugal bliss of these families, ensure that domestic abuse does not happen. Last but not least, we believe also that there's a population crisis within Singapore that the government is also trying to solve. The government tries to pay us thousands of dollars in order for us to have more babies, in order to solve the aging population problem. The issue, what we have to realize here today, ladies and gentlemen, if you take the $3,000 and you allow the Filipinos or the Malaysians to send it back to their families, you can feed tens of hundreds of people, right? And we think that this is a much greater incentive for these women who are willing then to have children for the men of Singapore to serve our army, to ensure that our borders are protected, to ensure that our economy can continue to survive. For all these reasons and more, I'm very proud to propose.
Yeah.
Yeah, we now welcome Alfred and the cross-examiner from site NTU.
Only one question. They can just ask questions.
Or actually for the whole
Basically, you guys can ask him questions now.
Yeah, what he says for 2 minutes.
Alfred, you said you need money for people to continue having a lot of honey acquisition. So what's stopping you from having a different policy instead? Why don't we just put ERPs outside Geylang that give you money to enter? Wouldn't that be a better solution then?
We think that the problem with ERP outside Geylang, we think the problem there, right, is that you don't want your honey to be shared by tens and hundreds of men every different night, right? You want your own honey. Men want to be very possessive of their very own woman. Why try and rent one when you can own one yourself, right? That's something that all of us can agree with.
I think, why is your notion of honey restricted to prostitutes? Can't SMU look beyond that?
Okay guys, don't be racist. Just because these Filipinos, Vietnamese, and Malaysian women come from poor countries doesn't mean that they're all prostitutes.
Let's say under your prime time, you buy a bride from another country, and now there comes another Amor who's going to offer a much higher price. Are you happy with the fact you are going to give up your current wife to the Amor?
We think that the moment we get the wives back to our own homes, right, they will realize that we are much better than our Amors who can't do anything.
Like, Alfred, question for you. Do you think that the chicks in Singapore, they date Angmoh guys because they have money, or because they are white, or in some other cases because they are black?
That's a very interesting question. I think clearly problem with them is that they like variety. They like things which are different, exotic, and exciting. And that's why, living in among Singapore and Singaporean men, they cannot appreciate our brilliance, and that's why they try and seek men from overseas. But we think the same then applies to women from Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand, and all these other countries who will find us exotic and interesting and appreciate us for who we are.
All right, we thank the speaker for his speech. We now welcome the first speaker from NTU. Vice Chair. In case it isn't clear and obvious enough as it is, this is a humour round. And anything that the debaters may say in this debate do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the SMU Debating Society or the NTU Debating Society. Or the Singapore Writers Festival. That's very, very important.
Or even themselves.
We had desperate engineers from NTU keep coming to SMU so that they can scout for chicks, but apparently the scene here is pretty bad. These guys need to go to Geylang to get any action. I mean, that's what it seems like. So we urge SMU to look beyond Geylang and they'll find enough action in Singapore. And I'm going to prove to you that there are other parameters other than money that gets you honey in the end. Right? So I'm going to talk about two things. The two categories of girls you can get without money. And secondly, does size matter and does stamina matter? Right, so two categories of girls. We've all met rich girls with driving big cars and huge mansions, have no monetary problems whatsoever. All they need is a guy who will hold their shopping bags and be there for them in times of despair when her dad says no to some trivial thing, and then all they want basically is just some emotional support. And if you can be there, and if you promise to be there with her forever and hog her pop's money, she will be with you forever. And that's the kind of market that SMU isn't targeting. They need to look deeper into the demographics of Singapore to sort of figure that out. And secondly, right, since we're all young, I'm sure we all have a fetish for MILFs. And these are one more category that you can certainly move without money because they're ready to treat you guys with your husband's money. Of course, that's subject to the fact and contingent on the fact that you have stamina and size, which I'm going to talk about later, right? So before I move on to that, since we're in Singapore, let's talk about white guys. Yeah, Mark, this is for you. But yeah, we see that even if it really doesn't matter how much money you have, you see white guys wearing the worst of clothes and still getting laid. But that's just how Asia is, ladies and gentlemen. It's just the affection we have for white skin, and it has nothing to do with money whatsoever, right? And even black guys, it has nothing to do with money again, quite evidently. I mean I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but apparently in Taiwan, Indian guys get a lot of money. You know why? Because they mistake us for black people. I mean, little do they know that we're very different and ugly. but they do mistake us for black people, ladies and gentlemen. And then, so one more factor, right, that sort of determines the honey you get. So let's face it, I'm from NTU, geeks don't get much, right? So firstly, if you're a hippie, if you're into drugs, and you party a lot, that automatically improves your chances of getting money, right? So we see that hippies often don't need to look beyond their circle of friends. I mean, geeks do, because their circle of friends are more like males and non-males. We don't really have that women category. We find it very hard to scout for that in NTU as well. So we tell you that your social circle matters way more than the money you have. And also this thing, once my friend told me that alcohol is like a magic potion. I mean, you walk into a party where everyone's pissed drunk and you find like the ugliest of guys getting the hottest of chicks. And that is proof enough for the fact that we don't need money to sort of procure money, so to say. And also then coming on to the most important thing, racial factors, right? Again, I'm going to talk about Indians. Indian accent isn't really the best way to scout. I'm sure you all have watched Russell Peterson by now, you know that the Indian accent can never get you chicks. It's also about then the way you talk, and that is why guys like Mark get more than we get because their accent sounds more appealing to women, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about the money at all. Right? And thirdly, does size and stamina matter? That's when I'll talk to you about black guys because again, one more department where Indians and our Chinese brothers lag behind is the size department, and that's where really the black guys take the prize away from us and lead from the front, right? And also stamina again. If you're a rich fat guy, you might get tokenistic honey, but you'll be sharing that honey definitely with somebody who has more stamina, ladies and gentlemen. We're extremely proud to oppose. Any questions?
All right, SMU may now begin questioning Vice Note for 2 minutes.
Yes. Do you, it's a serious question, guys. Do you carry your girlfriend's handbag?
No, I don't. Is there a
Because it seems that you are kind of fancy for your answer. Just wondering, that's all.
okay?
So given that NTU has a notorious reputation of inbreeding, right, where they hit on all the PRCs and Indians within their own community, what puts you in any position to discuss local Singaporean women?
Sorry?
What puts you in any position to discuss local Singaporean women? And no, Andrea doesn't count.
No, see, it's not even about the local Singaporean women. All I'm saying is there are other factors, right? I mean, even in NTU, we have a really bad sex issue, so it's not really about inbreeding there. We do look beyond our community. So there's no question of inbreeding. And it's also not about Singapore women. It's whether you really need money to get money. And I've told you there are various other things that can get you money faster, if not as fast as money. Anything else? Okay, thank you.
We now welcome the second speaker from SMU, Prakash.
Okay, Madam Speaker, we can see that, NTU very clearly is out of touch. I think being situated in Jurong, far away from Singapore society, has insulated them from the real problems that a Singaporean man is facing in his day-to-day activities, trying to find a woman that, will show him love, care, and concern. All Rajan has come up here and told us, was at the end of the day, we can never really measure up to Mark and his glory, his accent, his money and his size, but what we think we need to do, and SMU being the premier institute, in bringing the light to people and showing them things, we think necessarily what we need to do is show this woman the light, Madam Speaker, and the light being the macho Singaporean man that has gone through national service and is capable of taking care of women from surrounding ASEAN nations, Madam Speaker. We think necessarily we are here, our policy, making use of their CPF money, which we seem to keep paying but not reaping the benefits of. We think we are going to see a very real and tangible benefit coming to our Singaporean men, Madam Speaker. So today, what we will tell you is why it is the responsibility of the Singaporean government to save ASEAN, Madam Speaker. How does this work? Very simply, we can see that our ASEAN neighbours, right, currently they are the doldrums in the economic slump. And I think the problem there is simply because women themselves are not being employed. Nobody wants to marry them firstly, Madam Speaker, because simply they're very demanding and it costs too much money. And we think that women themselves, Madam Speaker, don't want to marry men that cannot support them. There's a saying, right, that behind every successful man there's a woman. But I think what people don't realize is that women only choose successful men, Madam Speaker. And we think necessarily that is a very, very big problem that we are facing. So we think when we see this sort of imbalance, right, we think that, the Singapore government has a moral obligation to save ASEAN single-handedly. We think our very fair neighbours from across the causeway and beyond into Thailand and Vietnam, we think only our economy and our Singaporean men that have gone through 2 years of rigorous training in handling all these sort of situations, Madam Speaker, will be able to take care of the, very unique ASEAN women that we see from coming from Thailand and Vietnam. Mostly Vietnam. We see people like John giving us a lot of problems. So we think necessarily, right, what this also does, Madam Speaker, is that in Singapore now we keep complaining Singapore is getting too crowded, but you know the government keeps telling us that no, we need foreigners. If not, our economy, can never be able to sustain itself. We need our population to rise up to $6.5 billion. When we think necessarily that's what our policy does, Mr. Speaker, we solve our immigration crisis and xenophobia at one go. Now firstly, we are very afraid of foreigners coming in, right? So necessarily, we think if we bring them in and they assimilate with our Singaporean males, then immediately what it does is that it pops out an offspring that is Singaporean. Your spouse is Singaporean. So we think that necessarily also fast track the process from PR to citizen. Then we don't have people whining about, hey, why is guy PR got so many benefits, not a citizen. So we think, this is what we require. We think Singapore government has been, is a very pragmatic, far-sighted government, and we think necessarily what SMU is doing is following the line and the policy of the Singapore government by ensuring that we are able to sustain our population going forward, Madam Speaker. No, we think necessarily if NTU wants to come up here and they're going to give us some solutions to, I think they're probably going to give us speech training classes to improve our accent to impress the women, or make us undergo some sort of surgery so that we measure out. We think necessarily the only tools that we have at our disposal, Madam Speaker, is national service and the CPF. So necessarily we think these are the solutions that we will use to tackle the problem of no money, no honey. Thank you.
We now welcome the speakers from NTU to ask questions for 2 minutes.
How are you solving the economic problem by bringing women to sleep with Singaporean men? Because that's not really helping the economy, right?
You see, Madam Speaker, what they don't realize is that it's not a very surface level thing. We're not bringing them to sleep with us. We're bringing them to be part of our families, part of our homes. And I think necessarily when you have a woman that you can rely on in your household or contributing to the Singapore economy, necessarily, that is how it contributes to the economy. Econs 101, guys, you all should take a course in SMU. Teach you that.
Okay. You said that national service is exactly the most valuable asset in Singapore, right? But you do realize that the reason why many people lose their girlfriends is because they went through NS. Don't you think then they should do away with NS completely so that they can get the honeys better?
See, Madam Speaker, while we like to have our cake and eat it too, we think what we are doing is actually we are directly addressing this problem. Yes, you might lose your girlfriend, but who needs a woman that at the end of the day leaves you just because you're out there serving a nation? So now we are going to bring in a substitute. CPF, the money, okay, you contribute your NS allowance. At the end of the day, we'll give you a replacement. Yes, you might not be a Singaporean, but she'll love you all the same.
Now we welcome Peter, the second speaker from NTU.
Madam Speaker, the current bench of SMU bench have come to the podium today with a so-called elegant solution to each and every one of you. You are now authorized to use your CPF to purchase life partners. Ladies and gentlemen, they said the purpose of this is to save our ASEAN neighbors. But the message I want to come across today is that it is not laughing matter. Under their paradigm, to get a girl or wife, all you need is money. Look or other attributes does not count. We can be a sweaty, slinky, and dumb frog. But as long as we have money, we are rich, girls will flock to you like bees to honey. Or more likely, flies to them.
Oh.
Money, while important, is seldom the main consideration for women. If a lady is indeed interested in seeking a serious relationship, what is of greater importance is whether she gets a sense of security and fulfillment from being with a man or not. If you earn big bucks and but are unable to provide the necessary emotional support, the woman will eventually leave, for sure. A simple example would be, let's say Jeremy is an investment banker. He earns in US dollars and gets 18 months bonus every year. But he ends up losing his girlfriend in love. Why? Because his work demands him to work 20 hours a day, and his girlfriend feels that he could not provide the sufficient quality family time for her to give her the justification to continue the relationship. That's a serious problem we are facing under the SMU bench paradigm. At the second level, if money is the sole criterion for deciding whether to start a relationship or to maintain a kind of relationship, I would like to ask them, then what is the difference between having a girlfriend or wife using money and paying for social escort or prostitute? So, I can predict such relationships will be short-lived because everything involved in a relationship is calculated on the basis of economics. A woman who gets into such a kind of relationship will not let go the opportunity when another wealthier man offers a bigger cash for her. And that's a serious problem we forgot to address. So ladies and gentlemen, don't believe in whatever crap they have provided you with. We are sensitive against the idea that no money. With all these reasons, we are very proud people.
So, who says that Thailand girls are not capable of deep emotional connections with us? Whenever I go see my girlfriend in Thailand, she'll tell me, "Honey, I love you deeply." Surely that is a sign that they too are capable of deep emotional connections.
Firstly, I didn't say that a girl from Thailand will not have the emotional demand from you. It is rather the other way around. When you actually get hold of a Thailand girl using money solely, are you going to be able to invest a kind of emotion in that relationship because you are not serious in the first place? Because you can earn money later, and the sole question of using or having a girl from Thailand is not important to you anymore.
But sir, why would we get a money, propose to them and marry them if we weren't serious about forming a bond?
Especially, exactly. When you were at the podium, you said that you do not bother whether you want to marry them or not. You just want to keep them in your house and do whatever fancy stuff that you have imagined. Is that going to work under a paradigm?
So you see, I think what you're failing is, besides the pragmatism of our policy, is the emotional aids that we have. We are not keeping them as mates, we're keeping them as soulmates, life partners, and we think we need to introduce our Singaporean men to these women that are out there that are also seeking another soulmate.
I have no problem with that, but the sole question is, how are you going to make sure that such Singaporeans who can procure such money will make the corresponding responsibility that is required to put into that relationship?
I think I have a typically Singaporean response to that. I mean, besides saying draconian NS, I think, like SMU, everything we make Singaporeans take courses, right? So we can send them for a course for this as well.
Well, okay, thumbs up. Thank you very much.
We now welcome the third speaker from NTU SWF. SMU. Sorry.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, fellow audience, teammates, and handbag carriers. From side SMU, we've come to this debate pretty clear. Right? We think that at the end of the day, love is important, yes, but so is money. And we think on the SMU side, we are not ashamed to say that women can be bought. If any of you have got a girlfriend to Zara, you know that that's possible. We're going to talk to you about three things from my summary speech. I'm going to talk to you on three levels. Firstly, economics. Secondly, social. And third, the philosophy of our argumentation. I know it sounds very serious, but just bear with me. Firstly, let's talk about the idea of economics. We think this is something that NTU has no idea about, considering that the only supply and demand that they see are squirrels and trees. We tell you on our side, that especially as a premier business school in SMU, who by the way earns the most after graduation, it's not too late to change course. We tell you at the end of the day, this is really an issue of supply and demand, right? Think about it. The demand in Singapore is massive, but the supply is short. Right? A lot of women in Singapore don't want to get Asian men. And there's a problem. Why? Because we aren't getting our fix. And that's a massive problem because then we resort to underhand black market things like going to Geylang and so forth. Everything is very harmful, especially for us and our friends down there. But the important thing at the end of the day is because there is so much of a cost involved in local women, that's why we need to open up the markets. We don't believe in protectionism. I mean, in one kind of protectionism, yes, but not in the other kind of protectionism. We think Singapore's markets should be free and open, and we should allow people to come in and join us in arms and in bed. Firstly, and what does this the consequence of that? I think it's very simple. The moment you allow people to be bought, people to be loved in a different way, you reduce the price of women in Singapore. They realize, oh no, we're losing out to a foreign woman. What are we going to do? Let's cheapen ourselves. We think that's an excellent idea, especially if you think about how women can always be bought all the time. I know this sounds very politically incorrect, but the important thing about debates, guys, is to be consistent throughout the band. I'm just extending that idea. Secondly, right, this idea about return on investment, I think it's a powerful concept, right? Something they never understood. Because CPF is something that you can always collect but never see. I'm sure the people in the bank, some of them who are working, know that that's true, right? But the important thing is you can see something tangible. It creates the return of investment. Why? You don't have to pay for maid levy in the first place because you have a wife, right? You don't have to make other people do your thing because you have a wife. And more importantly, right, when there's something bad that goes wrong, you can always threaten to deport and revoke her citizenship. I think that's perfectly good and it's a good concept of return on investment, something again we never did as well. So the first idea of economics, we think we're very solid on that, definitely. Right? But let's talk about the second idea, social. Right? We think they never responded to this again. Firstly, we talked to you about integration. We think it's extremely important, not only for you, because in their world, everything is just black or white, but we want to have a mixture, an entire spectrum of colors, like United Colors of Benetton. We think that's extremely important because that invites a lot of people. Have you ever seen the MRT posters, guys? You always see 4 different colors. We need more colors than that. And we think by having allowed women from all over the world to be brought into Singapore is a great idea to blend and make sure Singapore is multicultural, like the government says so, even though there are a few people who don't serve very well in the army. Let's move on from that idea, right? Secondly, we also say, we reduce the demand for foreign workers. It's extremely important in the concept where you have so many foreign male workers in the trains. We don't want them, right? Because they always occupy our seats and they don't give preference seats to women. We think when you have women instead, they are more likely to give preference seats so that people like me can sit and sleep because they're tired, right? So we think on the social aspect, it integrates the country very well. People have no room to complain anymore because they are Singaporeans and you, like in what Armington says, London, Sakta. But let's go on to the third idea. This is our philosophical concept. Everything is very complex. Well, but unfortunately, because they were very short in terms of their substance, they couldn't really comprehend the idea that we were trying to grow in from-side government, right? We talked to you about this idea of duty to protect. Everything is very important. I have spent a lot of time talking to you about how women out there are dying, how women have to eat rice, oh my god, rice, right? And they don't have a marriage to someone themselves. How men out there have to give a dowry in terms of a cow. We think that's a shame and a pity to the woman's dignity, right? We think we buy a woman and give her a lot more money, and it's a lot better because then she gets to choose what she actually wants to buy. And we think that's much better rather than having a cow in your home and not knowing what to do with them and after a few years looking the same, right? But secondly, I'm going to insult the idea of women even further, right? By saying that the concept of women are the same as pets. Government already currently allow you to buy pets at a pet shop. They allow you to raise the pet, take care of the pet, groom the pet, feed the pet, and when you don't want the pet anymore, send it to SPCA. We think the same idea should apply. The consistent idea of protecting the minority and the weakest people in Singapore, like Alfred, right, who needs constant protection. These are the things that on our side we get to achieve and we get to accomplish. The problem with NTU is that they live in this idealistic world, and we understand the hardship because in NTU you can't really differentiate sometimes between males and females, especially in the engineering sector. We sympathize with them, but go with SMU.
Alright, we now welcome the speakers from the queue to ask Syed some questions.
Syed, what happens then when the CPF money runs out and the wife has run away? What do?
You find a cheaper one.
You talked about cultural integration there, but you only buy women from the Asian countries and basically it's all the same race, so how are you actually improving the color spectrum that you were so enforcing?
In the status quo, which in 2011, right, we think that's true because like Europe isn't so shit in terms of economy. In a few years' time, give Europe and the US a few years' time, we think the Chinese will not only buy US born but US women at the same time. So it's not really a problem under the status quo.
Hello.
Hi.
If you make women a common commodity that can be sold on all markets, what happens if you end up being a poor man, having no money to compare with people that are richer than you, who are willing to pay more money than you?
We don't think it's a problem as long as you still have one hand. You can solve it yourself. Any more questions? Thank you.
Now welcome Jeremy, the last speaker from NTU.
Testing. Testing. Everybody hear me? Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Alright, people from SMU, people walking around, fellow debaters, friends, everybody, alright? Okay. Look, outside of NTU, we're very happy to see this debate because we now know what SMU really thinks of women. Okay, but I'm going to give you more than that because throughout this whole debate, all they have been talking about is the size of your dollar. But we don't think so. We think that it is the size of your dollar. That is what really matters. Okay, so essentially they came out and said, well, NTU people, we really are the kinds of people stuck in that part of this society and we don't know the real situation going around here. Okay, I'll just concede that. And I just said that just to concede that. Let me move on, right? And they talked about the things about what is the wife going to do in the future. Okay? And this is what they said. That if you pay them and you love them, then they will do the things that you want them to do. Okay, here is the problem. When you pay all the foreign wives, the Filipinos, and all the different kinds of people you bring home, and then abuse them, what happens is that they are most likely to bring banglas home if you are not at home. Everything that happens very often, especially because you decided to put them to one corner of the house and clean and make a sandwich and iron. We think that is bad on their side. But here's the real problem. Let's say they do really want to accept, oh by the way, just in case I am this one. Okay, let's say that they do accept that role in their house. What's going to happen is the very primary essence of any woman. They're going to realize that, okay, the man is apparently expecting me to do X number of things. What shall I ask in return? Fine, I shall go and shop more. But the more the woman shops, the less money the man has to accommodate her. And in that situation, when the woman suddenly decides that I want a house, well guess what? There is no more CPF from SMU to give that woman a house. Okay, now let's talk about successful people. And essentially they say, well, you need to be successful and all the women will flock to you. Okay guys, trust me. If he said no, order something today. And he said, does any chick want to be with me? There are a huge number of people that don't want to be with me for a huge number of reasons. But more than that, guys don't get the girls just by being rich. Guys get the girls by lying. So, what are we going to do? Okay? They said that we don't have a policy and NTU does nothing. No, we think we're going to do something, right? We think that the government should start early. They should give courses to people on how to start lying. That's one. Secondly, right, we also say that you must have an ERP in hot zones like Dela, like Desker for some people. And then we think that if you have an ERP that credits their cash card every time they drive through and every time they drive out, then they know what is valuable to them. Is it love making or is it money making? Okay, but more than that, right, we're going to have schools have compulsory orientation camps. And after those orientation camps, people are supposed to write a report on who they really want to have a sexual relationship with. We think that's important, and that's better than we are. Then, let's move on to girls. And they said, well, basically, they really never really talk about girls. They talk about this whole debate in a male-dominated perspective. And guess what, guys? Girls themselves don't need money to have money, to have honey. And here's why. Whenever a girl is whenever a guy has a new girlfriend, he goes up to his friends and says, look, guys, I'm now attached. The first question is not, does your girlfriend invest? No, the first question is she hot? Is she chio? Can she blow well? Those are the kinds of questions that really do exist. And this is why we say, even for a girl's perspective, you don't need money to have money. And here's more, right? Because for a girl to have a real good boyfriend, all she needs to do is dress less. And we think that dressing lesser is cheaper than dressing more. Okay, then this last part. They said that, well, people need to show love and show care and they shouldn't be too picky. Well, here's the thing. We think that you don't need to have money in order to have honey. You see, because you can pick fat chicks. And here's why you can pick fat chicks. Because ultimately, at one point in time of their life, chicks are going to love desserts. And the more they eat, the more they balloon. Well, you don't be too cocky and too arrogant and then say that I need money to have love. No, you don't. You just need to stand outside Ben and Jerry's, you need to wait outside Postcode and wait for some lucky chick to find love. And that's why we don't think we need money to have honey.
So we challenge the effectiveness of your ERP scheme because we know what will happen if you have ERP entries crediting money in people's accounts. The kiasu woman will drive in and out, and after that go to Orchard to go and buy their clothes.
We actually, okay, you see, right? We actually think it's okay if women go in and out through the ERP so that they get money to buy Orchard. Then they wouldn't have to bother their husbands who have to spend all their money buying for them all the different goods. That is a good thing. And we're not paying them $50 every time they go inside. There are peak hour charges.
So given that you have agreed that women need maintenance, right, which is a concession that you have already made, isn't it wiser for us to pay women who go to cheap places to buy stuff such as Lucky Plaza and City Plaza instead of the women in Singapore who go to Orchard?
You see, right? At one point in time, all Singaporean women shopped in possibly G2000 and then, okay. Eventually, when society becomes richer and people have less time for them, they are going to start shopping in different areas. So that doesn't really change anything for you. They are still going to be really sloths.
But sir, we think actually if we bring in women that are that gravitate naturally towards places such as Lucky Plaza and such, then we think we save ourselves a lot of money.
Lucky Plaza scam people for money.
I thought it was Filipinos like
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, if you have this kind of women that have this kind of shopping profile, then we think that you could also do that without money, right? Like most of the time, you don't find these people hanging around in posh places. You can find them everywhere. Why do you need to take the CPF out to pay them? Don't make sense, right? Thank you very much.
Audience time. How many of you thought these guys won?
No, guys. The NTU.
That's not a lot. How many of you think these guys won? Nobody. Okay, so the judges are going to take their time and they're going to deliver their feedback into it. Do any of you have any questions for any of them? You can direct your question to anyone. They take 10 minutes. So for 10 minutes, the audience can ask questions. We have 10 minutes to come on, people ask questions.
Run, Saraya, run!
I just have one question. Don't your arguments,
it's just my opinion, but aren't the arguments seem to be very demeaning to women? It seems to be very demeaning.
Yes.
Yeah, we do agree. But this was a humor round, so I hope nobody takes this personally. This does not reflect our view of women, Singaporean women, women from Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. We love them all the same.
Would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, we actually.
was directed at SMU.
Okay, I think, yeah, in the view of being funny, like, we apologize to anyone who's offended, but fact remains that beneath the jokes and beneath the meaning statements that we make is a concern that is very close to the heart of the men of Singapore. Especially, as in, like, it's something that the government doesn't address, something that people don't naturally read about, but there are a lot of single men out there who may be divorcees, may be old, and they remain single because they are unable to find a woman who can accept them for who they are. So this is something that an idea that we have that while novel, while quite ridiculous, just something that we came out with. 15 minutes of that time.
I see that both sides are only from perspective of a guy. Do you have any comments?
Yeah, I do. Actually, only from SMU side, we hear a perspective of the guy. We bring to you some element of the girl, right? Like I talked to you about how the girl doesn't need money. But ultimately, don't try to take away too much of this debate. It doesn't guide you through your SS with super high flying marks if you write down the stuff that we just said. And it doesn't really help if you start talking to your girl classmates like that. So, in order to take it with a pinch of salt, just have fun and just try to bring up the best of what you can with all these arguments that you hear today.
Yeah, I mean, I think the views reflect, the 6 guys that are sitting down here, apparently with nothing better to do on a Saturday afternoon than come and debate. I think it reflects a very serious problem that we're facing today. But I think further than that, addressing, we talk about the woman, we say why the woman want to come to Singapore, I mean, Singaporean women from here go in search of greener pastures elsewhere, so people from elsewhere come and seek greener pastures here. I mean, the grass always greener on the other side, as they say.
So earlier when I asked everyone who they thought had won most at SMU, can anyone tell me why? Anyone put up their hand? Tell me why you thought SMU won? You thought SMU won. We have any questions for them?
The ISA will catch you, just say.
Okay, there are no more questions. We just have to wait for the second to come back and declare the date.
Hi, good afternoon everybody. My name is Andrea. I am a 5th year female Filipino student at SMU. And the only reason I am not offended by any of the speeches is because I know that it is a humor round. Likewise, we must take it as a humor round. So moving on to my adjudication. Overall, the panel thought that it was an unsatisfactory debate because it started out pretty well, but as the debate swelled, as we tried to get our hands around it, kind of, we felt that both teams were somewhat oblivious to their own team's shortcomings. In that there was a lack of principal defense coming from proposition, and coming from side opposition, there was inadequate clash with what government had to say. Specifically, Mark and Satya felt that the debate led them unsatisfactory, that it was over before it even began. And if it's possible, that they'd like to have some more. Nevertheless, we came to a unanimous decision, and we gave this debate to SMU.